Rome. An empire that was once the heart of the world. And what kept this empire standing for centuries wasn't merely political power or wealth. It was the deadliest, most disciplined, most flawless war machine the world had ever seen, the Roman legions. But how did these soldiers bring the world to its knees? How did they remain undefeated for hundreds of years? And who was the true architect of Rome's rise, the emperors, or the legionaries who held the sword? In this video, we will uncover the hidden secrets of the Roman army, their brutal training, their unstoppable tactics, and the strategies that allowed them to conquer the world in detail. If you're ready, we march into the depths of history with the steel steps of Rome. The strength of the Roman legions began not on the battlefield, but in the training grounds. When a citizen joined the army, he ceased to be an ordinary man. He became the property of Rome. Roman commanders described it exactly this way, because a legionary no longer belonged to his own life, but to the empire. The training was brutal. Runs starting at sunrise, marches with heavy armor, hours of shield and gladius drills. All of this wasn't just to strengthen the soldier, but to reshape him completely. A legionary had to walk at least 30 kilometers a day, carry a 45-kilogram load on his back, and possess the endurance to fight without exhaustion. Rome's goal wasn't merely to create strong soldiers, it was to build an unbreakable military system. Soldiers who hesitated or obeyed slowly during training were punished. In the most severe cases, a terrifying method called decimatio was used. 10% of the unit was executed by the rest. This established discipline through a combination of fear and absolute loyalty. Only one idea was carved into the mind of a Roman soldier. Orders are unquestionable. Dying for Rome is an honor. This belief was so powerful that legionaries obeyed their commanders in battle without a single doubt, walking even into death without uttering a word. What conquered the world was not only muscle, but this mechanical obedience. Rome knew well that what strangled its enemies wasn't just swords, but discipline. The Roman army possessed the most advanced organizational structure of the ancient world. A legion was not formed merely by gathering soldiers. It functioned like the gears of a perfectly crafted machine. The 480-man cohorts, the 80-man centuries, and the centurions who commanded them. Every stone, every shield, every step had a predetermined place and purpose. Because of this structure, the Roman army never allowed chaos on the battlefield. When the enemy attacked, Roman soldiers did not panic. They executed maneuvers they had practiced countless times, often within minutes. The testudo, or tortoise formation, was the best example of this. Hundreds of soldiers locked their shields at flawless angles, turning into a walking fortress of armor. Not a single man dared break this formation, because in Rome, the value of the individual was always less than the value of the unit. Roman commanders were also part of this system. They were not merely officers giving orders, they were leaders who fought alongside their men. A centurion marched in the front lines, maintaining discipline with the staff he carried. Their duty was not only to win battles, but to preserve order itself. This is why the Roman army conquered the world step by step, moving like a chain of discipline forged from steel. Rome did not defeat its enemies with sheer numbers. It won with intelligence, training, and tactical mastery. The gladius used by legionaries was short but deadly. Unlike enemies who swung long swords wildly, Romans used the gladius for thrusting. This method was swift and delivered fatal strikes to the weakest points of enemy armor. The pilum, Rome's javelin, was one of the hidden weapons of the battlefield. When thrown, it pierced an enemy's shield, and its specially designed soft metal tip bent on impact. This made the enemy's shield useless, forcing them to discard it. Rome understood well that disarming an opponent was often more effective than overpowering them. Roman tactics were not based solely on individual skill. Each unit had specific duties. When frontline soldiers grew tired, those behind them rotated forward, ensuring that fresh fighters always faced the enemy. This gave Rome a tremendous advantage in prolonged battles. They also mastered the hammer and anvil tactic. Units would trap the enemy, leave no room to escape, and then crush the center with a sudden overwhelming push. Rome didn't just learn how to fight, they reinvented the very concept of warfare. When the Roman legions reached a new region, the first thing they did was build a camp. And this camp was never random, it followed the exact same plan every time. Outer walls, trenches, gates, tents, the commander's headquarters, supply zones, everything was established with mathematical precision. A Roman camp wasn't just a resting place, it was practically a small city. This system gave Rome enormous advantages. While enemies were swallowed by the darkness of night, the Roman camp remained secure. Legionaries kept watch even at night, and the surrounding trenches prevented surprise attacks. The uniformity of this system ensured that the army operated with the same order everywhere, preventing chaos entirely. A legion could assemble or dismantle its camp within hours and then march for days. This mobility made Rome one of the fastest-moving armies in the ancient world. The fact that the army was always battle-ready allowed them to win many conflicts before they even began. Victory was not achieved only on the battlefield, it was built in the camp each night. The true power of the Roman army did not lie in its swords, but in its logistics. The empire built a vast supply network capable of sustaining war for months. Granaries, road systems, bridges, communication routes, all existed for a single purpose. A legionary must never be hungry, thirsty, or exhausted. Roman roads still stand today because they were not built merely for trade, but for military movement. A legion could advance 30 to 40 kilometers per day along these roads, covering hundreds of kilometers in mere days. This allowed Rome to crush rebellions, catch enemy armies off guard, and maintain control over massive territories. Roman engineers could also build bridges quickly, securing river crossings within minutes. This engineering prowess made the Roman army not only a fighting force, but a construction force as well. Enemies knew how to fight. Rome knew how to fight and how to build the infrastructure of war. For centuries, the Roman legions appeared invincible. This was not only due to discipline, tactics, and logistics. Rome also defeated its enemies psychologically. Entire regions surrendered at the mere sight of Roman standards in the distance. Those who stood against Rome usually faced the same fate: surrender or annihilation. Roman soldiers believed they carried the destiny of the empire. This belief made them incredibly resilient and courageous. And Rome knew how to learn from defeat. After suffering devastating losses at Cannae, they didn't blame the system, they improved it. A Roman defeat was never an ending, it was the beginning of transformation. What made Rome invincible was not the assumption of perfection, but their ability to turn every mistake into a stronger system. The Roman legions were far more than an army. They were a fusion of intellect, technique, and discipline that built the greatest military legacy in history. We have witnessed how the Roman legions conquered the world step by step. We saw how ordinary farmers, molded into soldiers through iron discipline, became the driving force behind a colossal empire. And perhaps most importantly, we understood that Rome's success was no coincidence, but the result of systematic intelligence, ruthless order, and an unbreakable will. When we look back today, we can still see the traces left by the Roman legions. Ancient roads still standing, bridges untouched by time, engineering marvels that continue to inspire all. These structures are more than stone, they are silent witnesses to how a civilization reshaped the world. But the true foundation of all these achievements was Rome's human power, legionaries trained with patience, bound by fear and loyalty, organized with flawless precision. Rome's spirit rose upon their shoulders. In this video, we didn't just try to understand how an army won battles, we tried to understand how a civilization survived. The power of the Roman legions wasn't only on the battlefield, it lay in their mindset, discipline, and determination. And perhaps that is why their story has been told for 2,000 years. Because Rome's story is not just about conquest, it is about surpassing human limits and turning the impossible into the achievable through system and order. If you've watched this far, you've become a true part of this extraordinary historical journey. Thank you for that. The purpose of this channel is not only to inform, but to explore together the hidden corners of the past and reveal humanity's grand story in detail. We examined the legendary power of the Roman legions, but there are still hundreds of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Maybe in the next video we'll see how empires collapse. Maybe we'll follow the trail of the lost armies of the ancient world. Or perhaps we will solve one of history's greatest unanswered mysteries. If you want to choose the topic of the next documentary, you can check the poll I shared in the community section. Your opinions are not just ideas, they are the force that shapes the future of this channel. Thank you for being here. Until we meet again on a new discovery. May the echo of Rome's steel footsteps be with you.